So the ancient Israelites viewed the world very differently, which you may have learned as I did this year with the Come Follow Me. I wanted to go over that real quick and show how it directly correlates in my mind with the creation story and the tabernacle. So you have this big dome, and inside it there was water, and within the water there was the land, and this was held up by these pillars. Above, there was this dome, and inside would have been the stars and the moon and the sun. And just above this protective dome would have been a layer of water. And beyond the layer of water would have been the throne of God. Now, for example, it talks about the windows of heaven being opened and pouring out blessings. Now, they believe that there was windows here that could be opened up to let the water out. So when you use that analogy, it's as if the windows were opened up and the water pouring out from that top layer. Now, I'll go over the first 3 days, and then I will do a second video with the second 3 days. The first 3 days are all about dividing, as I mentioned before. Now, the first would be dividing the light from the dark. Now, I believe this was a little different than I first thought. But I believe that the darkness would be out here and the light would be in here where everything was living. Now, you have the Holy of Holies. And I learned recently that the Holy of Holies would have been dark because there was no internal light. The only light within this tented place would have been in the holy place, on the candlestick in front of the veil leading into the Holy of Holies. So I believe this correlates. This first division would be forming the Holy of Holies. So the darkness inside with the light outside. Now, day 2 leads us to the waters being separated and the sky, the firmament. Now, anciently, it talks about the waters being separated from the waters in heaven. And that would be referring to the waters in the earth and this layer of waters in the heaven. So you have here and you have here. And I believe that correlates with this outer courtyard protecting the waters from the earth, and this water being represented here at the veil. The veil would be the waters right before the throne of God. Now, one more thing that makes me think this is the case is that it talks about the Spirit moving upon the face of the waters. And right outside, you have the altar of incense, and rising would be the smoke. And I think of that visually as the Spirit moving upon the face of the waters, the smoke moving upon the face of the veil. Now, day 3 moves us in the final construction phase of the tabernacle and the separation formation within the earth. That would be the holy place. And that would be separating the land from the water. So here you have the water here, and then the land is formed, and underneath would be the pillars. And also there was vegetation formed on it. Now, I know that inside the holy place, they would have decorated it almost in a Garden of Eden fashion with different vegetation and decorating it visually in that way. So that pertains, and I do believe that perhaps the table of shewbread would be talking about, with the bread representing the vegetation, and the cup of wine representing the lakes and the rivers, all the beautifying of the earth from the liquid. So when you have these two things, the last thing to the day 3 would correlate with these pillars that go underground into the water. And I realized that in front of the holy place, they also had pillars that directly correlate with the landscape here and their worldview. So these are the first 3 days of the construction of our creation of the world and the construction of the ancient tabernacle.